going to go through here today, and by the way, my name is Wes Hickey. I'm the Dean of the College of Education and Psychology at the University of Texas at Tyler. Have a pretty long history of going to Belize. Been to UB several times, and next time I go by, I certainly hope that many of you I will get an opportunity to meet. For probably the past 12 years, I've spent a lot of time in Toledo District, so I know some individuals that I meet at UB over time will tell me that that is where they grew up, and so I have a very strong reference there. And along with trips there based on things I'm doing with the university, I'm also the chair of the NGO called Teachers for a Better Belize. And when I talk to individuals, some have a background that know what TFAB is about, and they did their work down in Toledo. So that is where it is. So I really enjoy my trips there, my friends in Belize and relationships that I have, and certainly hope to continue that on over time. That being said, is I want to go ahead at this point and see if I can share my screen, my desktop. I want to talk today about what we call online customer service. And so when I look at this online customer service, I'm looking at it from the perspective of a teacher to student. So in this particular area, what we're looking at is the concept of having, being able to work with students well in a way that's going to impact them positively. And so one of the areas there that I want to talk about as we go through is that we want to create what we have as a high-tech, high-touch environment. About high-tech, high-touch, it means in a way that even though you're using technology, that the students feel like they have a good grasp of what's going on, and they feel like they know you as the instructor. So we want to try to hit that as much as possible. Now, guys, you have a choice. Anytime you put anything online, we can do it synchronously, like we're doing now, or asynchronously, such as you're going to get if you pull up the YouTube video a little bit later on. So either way is probably fine, but you have to make sure if you're going to do it synchronously that your students have access to technology that they need. And so we worry about that a lot of times in Texas. You may worry about it in Belize, that they may not be able to get to the technology if you're going to do it at a certain specific time. But if you can put it online somewhere, whether it be a learning management system like Moodle, or whether it be Canvas or Blackboard or whatever you guys use, then you can do it in a way that they can access it whenever they want to access it. So a couple of things that I want to make sure and make clear from there is that one of the ways to handle customer service is that you want to make sure that they understand exactly what is expected of them in whatever course you're going to do. And so one of the things that I always did was a review of assignments every single time, and you can see up there that I have showing right there. All right, so what you see here is when you look at it right there, you see that each time I try to make sure that every student knows exactly what's going to be expected of them for every assignment down there. You can see the way I do it, and you can do it however you want to as long as it's clean and clear, is that I have solid bullet points if it's going to be an assignment they need to do, but I always include in there accountability measures of some sort, whether it be a quiz or something they're writing or a discussion board or whatever it is down the line. And I do an open bullet point for that because I want them to be able to go through and check off everything they need to do through there. A big key right there is if you go into your courses and it is ambiguous, if they get lost, if they don't understand what they're supposed to be doing, then your students are going to be unhappy, and it's going to be a tough situation for you as a teacher. So anytime you set it up, I would make it as clean and clear as you possibly can. Now, I know you guys talked about videos earlier, and I don't know what she told you on videos, but I'm going to tell you my personal bias on videos is when you put it on there is that you make it short enough so that they're not spending a ton of time. So when you look at mine up there, this is a leadership module. I talked about human relations leadership, and the first video right there was maybe 6 or 7 minutes long. So they didn't have to spend a lot of time looking at it, and they could move on and go from there. So those are pretty important things. But I repeat that ambiguity is the enemy of online courses. You want to make sure that it is as clean and clear as you possibly can when you are assigning things to your students. Second thing I want to hit real quick is the importance of, when you look at online customer service, it's the importance of making sure that you respond to people fairly quickly. Oh, sorry, went the wrong way. And the thing is that one of the areas that I tell my faculty is that I think they need to, one, make it very clear that they're going to answer all emails or any other messages that students have within 24 hours. But I actually go one step further. I often tell my faculty is that my expectations is first thing in the morning, you check email and you make sure you respond back to anybody. And then when you get done at the end of the day, you go back and you respond to anybody again. And again, there's nothing worse to being in a situation where you have a student that is out there trying to find the answer to something and they can't do it and they can't move forward until they get an answer from you. So to the extent that you get out there and you make sure that you answer things. Dr. Oliveras Ortiz that you saw earlier this morning is a master at this, and she does it because she is more involved than probably anybody else, because probably within the hour every day she responds to everything, and her student evaluations are always off the charts because they know that if they need anything at any point, they can get in touch with her and she will contact and get back with them very quickly, and then they can move forward and keep getting all the assignments done. So when you look at customer service and online programs, it is the responsive time, the responsiveness of it all is going to be very important. Another area is that one of the things that I always like to do is make sure that within whatever lesson that I have is that I try to connect with whatever's going on at that time in current events. And so this is good for classrooms in general, but one of the feedback that I get all the time with my students is that, you know, if we're dealing with COVID-19, I'm going to talk a little bit about COVID-19, and it doesn't matter whether you are in nursing or whether you're in education or whether you're in some kind of a social science somewhere down the line. COVID-19 hits every area. So if you talk about what that means to your area, that's an important thing. And so it helps connect something about you to your students in that situation. Now I'm going to see if I can, it's not going to let me do it here. I was going to see real quick if it would let me show you one of the ways that I do it in just a quick video, but it's again, trying to connect with what's going on. So connecting with current events is going to be an important thing in your classes. It shows that you're on top of things, and it helps them feel like they understand what's going on within the discipline that you have. We talked about accountability measures before, but I really think, and this is something I've even gotten from students, is that they know very quickly whether or not they understand what is going on. And so it looks something like this. And so having accountability measures that are quick and clear is going to be important. So as you go through and you have your lesson, you have a place right there that you have something, whether it be a quiz, essay, something down the line to hold them accountable what is for right before that. And so you can see right here is just an example that I had, and just showing a couple of questions, is that we had an ethics quiz in a class at one point, and I didn't give them a time limit here, but I talked about certain things and made them try to apply their knowledge in this particular environment and you know, be able to show that they understood it. And if they didn't understand it, it gave me an opportunity to go back and make sure that they understood sometime later. So having these accountability measures are going to be very important in being able to set up whatever you're doing right there. Talked before about the videos. We talked about current events, but the idea of personalizing your videos was something that students came back and said they felt very strongly was a big part and an important part of good customer service, being able to work with them at a very high level. And so I always try to personalize videos to the extent possible, making sure that people could see me, connect with me in whatever way I could. And so that is something that has always been something that would work well on that. And then, very similar to this, is be responsive enough that your fingerprints are everywhere. If you have a discussion board and you're asking students to discuss things, make comments often enough that they know that you're on top of things and going from there. I used to talk about it in the classroom with students. If you're in a classroom, walking around and having proximity is always a very important thing to being able to do anything. And I laugh about it, is that I try to work out on a regular basis. And if the trainer is across the room, obviously at that point, I'm likely not to work that hard to get that extra push-up done or whatever it is I'm getting done. But if that trainer is coming over close to me, then suddenly I'm going to work a little bit harder, to push a little bit harder and do a little bit more. Same thing with students, is that if they know you're paying attention and you're going over and doing different things and making comments in a lot of areas, that level, that law of proximity is going to have them work that much harder and understand that much better over time. Just like if you're walking around in a classroom and you're close to students, they're going to behave better and work better in that environment as well. And so I think the law of proximity is going to be very important. I think you've been reminded several times here, and I'm going to take questions here right here at the end. But UT Tyler is also hosting the Consortium for Belize Educational Cooperation this summer, July 23rd and 24th. We're going to hit a lot of things when it comes to virtual learning and try to help people get prepared for that. But we are kind of at the point that I wanted to go very quickly on that part, but I also want to, if there's any questions that I can answer of anybody, I want to be able to try to answer those questions. And Janita, I don't know if you could look also on the chat area and see if there's any.
Yeah, and I was looking at the chat, and I see that there's people from the library and records and admissions, and I was making notes as you were speaking about, how do you have your fingerprint everywhere, and how are you holding people accountable? One thing that I've seen at this time is a lot of auto-response emails to students, so that they know that you're working remotely and that you might not be able to reply or contact them immediately, but letting them know that you will get to their email as soon as you can, especially given the circumstances. So I think that would be something helpful to improve customer service, and really to improve that sense of, I'm being heard, and they'll take care of me as soon as they can. And the other thing I thought about was your videos. When you make videos, your videos are really short, but I thought, our librarian, at least, they do it sometimes for us, where they have videos explaining how to use certain resources, and they're short videos that they're posted online for us, or send via email. But those are all tools that you can provide for your students, and make their, hopefully make their lives easier now that they're off campus.
Yeah, and so a really good point right there, and I'm going to go ahead and extend upon that some, is one of the areas too that I didn't mention on this, but is very important, is having a video of some sort really describing your course, giving the expectations, letting them know how often you're going to be involved and how often you're going to be a part of whatever activity that they're doing. All of that's going to be really important for them. Again, what you want to do is create a course that is clean and clear and lacks ambiguity to the extent possible. And if you do that up front, well thought out, well structured course, then it controls a lot of the concerns that you're going to have from students as things go on. Anybody have any questions?
One more thing I want to say. One thing that you also mentioned about was accountability. And as somebody that has high standards for my students, but also for myself, perhaps I'm sometimes not very realistic in what I expect of myself, but accountability as far as our support and our services to our students. Like, I generally have some sort of survey, or just ask students for feedback, to that they can help me improve my own services that I provide for them. So, and that would apply to anybody, really, not just instructors, but everybody can really take the time to ask our students, which are customers, for feedback, and how can we improve the services that we're providing. And we could do that, in a Google survey or a Qualtrics survey, or whatever you might have, but Google is free. So that always helps.
Yeah.
So anyway, but that was it.
Yeah, and I agree. We want to hear from them. It doesn't mean the student's necessarily always accurate, and sometimes their perception. And sometimes, frankly, students will sometimes try to take advantage when they shouldn't. But many times what I find is that students really appreciate a good, rigorous course where they learn a lot of information in it, but they also need it in a way where they feel like the instructor is responsive to them. And so being responsive is a very important part. Is there anybody, any questions that would like to unmute and ask questions real quick?
Hi, Dr. Hickey, Lisa here.
Hey, Lisa.
Our faculty, we're health sciences, so that's social work, pharmacy, medical laboratory science, and nursing.
Right.
And I've appreciated all the speakers today. We've gotten a very good introduction on how to use these tools. And then I wanted to know if the ODL had discussed branching off as we become, we need to start experiment on our own and start finding little niches and little areas where we are comfortable relating to our students through through online courses. And for the sciences in particular, and the professional programs in particular, with the volume of information that the student is required to know, tips and tricks, in other words, in providing that. Because when I look at the situation overall for this institution, if you're thinking about it, when the economy hits us, and it's already started, the university, would have to find ways to figure out what it's going to do, what it can invest in, what it cannot.
Right.
From the sciences point of view, and from health sciences in particular, I see that as more as putting as much content in the digital space for students, and having the interactions be the discussions, be application, in that sort of tutorial fashion, rather than didactic lectures. We're a heavy didactic lecture set of programs. And, as a physician, the way we were trained, it was very important to get that interaction with your lecturer, your professor. But you needed to go and get the information first. You needed to establish what you knew, and then be able to have a substantive conversation with the lecturer. And so what I'm seeing for health sciences in particular, I can speak for anyone else, is how do we get that information and bank the information that we have, that our lecturers already have, and their capabilities, and then move on into when we do get to face-to-face. Now we're doing labs, we're doing skill assessments, we're doing other things. So that's just how I would see it. We go from what we're doing today, we start to work with that, but then we branch off into our different areas, and how do we get to fine tune what we're doing?
Right. Well, Lisa, I think that in a way that you're discussing what I think we might call flipped instruction in some ways. You want to make sure you have a lot of the knowledge that students need in an area that may be able to be used from semester to semester. And then when they get to the face-to-face environment, they can work on the skills that are related to that knowledge. And then the instructor really helps out with the skills. And that sounds a lot like what you are describing there. Is that correct, Lisa?
Yes, that sounds about right.
Yeah, and so I think that, so in all honesty, I'm unfamiliar with Moodle, and whether or not you can put all the assignments on there and save it so that you can just make tweaks and then use a lot of the same thing again. But regardless, there are a lot of places online, whether it be Google Docs, whether it be YouTube, that you can store videos and documents and various things like that you can use. And again, in a very structured way, you can put it out there, kind of like we showed it at the very first, where you give all the assignments out there and you make it very clean and clear what's expected of them. And you hold them with their little accountability measures that they understand what that is, and they can do that prior to coming forward. Now, Lisa, one of the things that you said that I think is, I think wise, and or you alluded to anyway, that's going to be very wise, is that being able to move to an online format and having some information there is going to be a strategic initiative probably for a lot of schools, because we don't know next time we're going to have to, once again, have to move online and be able to work with our students online. And so being able to have a repository to be able to have this information so that next time we can do it more efficiently is going to be important as well. So, Lisa, I don't know if I answered your question other than confirming what you said, but I do think having something in place, whether it be Moodle or Google or YouTube, I think will be a smart thing to do so that next time we move into this type of environment, we don't have to start from scratch, and that we can make this stuff work better.
And I think as somebody that got to higher ed pretty recently, 6 years ago, at first it was really all about trying to figure out what worked and what didn't work. And then because Moodle does allow you to save all that, going back the next semester and really looking at it and say, okay, I didn't like the way this worked, and really just refining it. It takes a lot less time once you've done it once. And really you get much better at it as you go. So you can refine those and really think about the what you want to share and how you want them to apply that knowledge.
You know, and depending on the university's policies on this, one of the things that you can begin to do, which allows a little more flexibility with time, again, your students have to have access to technology to do it, but create a little bit of a hybrid approach on occasion when instead of a Monday and Wednesday, classes, you can say Monday is going to be online with these assignments, and then Wednesday face-to-face. And we have many courses that have this hybrid format. It feels like University of Belize is kind of forced into this now, but if they will allow that flexibility within those courses, it's something that potentially provides a little different dynamic, but allows for a little bit of that high-tech, high-touch I talked about earlier. You still see them, you still know your students, but you still use technology, and prepares you for if you have to move forward sometime in the future and move more completely online.
Yeah, and Wes, when I taught the class, and Lisa, I teach education courses, so it is very much a practitioners. They're learning, how do you apply all these skills? And I ended up doing a hybrid course, and the students really liked that they have one day online at home, wherever, where they actually were reading all the things that we're going to then implement when they were designing lessons in class the next time. So it really did almost like the busy work and the reading and all that took place outside the classroom. And then whenever we got together, it was really all about implementing the information. And it really helped the instructor that took over the class this semester, because I already had all those things online. So she was able to transition to online much easier than had I not had anything on that online.
Yeah, and Dr. Oliveras makes a very good point here as well, is that I encourage individuals with the same discipline to collaborate some. You shouldn't have to invent the wheel.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so if you collaborate and can work together, if you have the same, within the same discipline, I think that becomes a positive as well. That collegiality can be important. Very good question.
That sounds about right. I like the hybrid approach.
Yeah. And we have a lot of instructors that do that, and students like it okay once they get used to it, and it works well for instructors too. So
I think you would allow for the easing into it, or
Correct.
getting used to it on both sides of the aisle, so to speak, both student and lecturer.
Correct. Yes. So that if you have to move to more, everybody has some being accustomed at least somewhat to the online environment. It's a good thing.
Thank you.
There's a question. How do you deliver exams with online courses?
Yeah, so again, I don't know Moodle very well. Furman says Moodle does allow you to save things there, so that's good. I don't know what kind of a testing mechanism Moodle has, but there are places online, and we can maybe at some point, if you guys want to talk to Dr. Palma about maybe what you guys would like to see are free resources online, and I can probably find somebody that would go through and show you a lot of free resources to be able to do a lot of things. But there are resources online in which you can put exams and have it, students go through it and score it and get it through there. There's a lot of different options that you can do that with, and hopefully Moodle does that. But any of that stuff would potentially work, and that's the way we do it. Now, you could also have essay exams and the different points, and you can have them email that directly to you, and you can grade them and go from there. I'm going to repeat something here too, is that it is motivational, obviously, for a student to get feedback very quick, and multiple choice stuff allows for very quick feedback, so that's good. Not always the best. Essay allows them to really show you what they know, but make sure that you can provide feedback as quickly as possible, because if you wait until they get it to you and you wait 2 weeks, you've lost that moment to really get them to see what they got wrong and the motivational aspect of grading. So we want to try to do that as quickly as possible.
And I think because of where we are, where so many of us are transitioning very quickly from, we're forced to transition. I think even though, like you said, multiple choice is not the best way to assess in the situation where we are, it might relieve some of the stress on you if you have multiple choice questions, like exams. Like my first year, mainly my exams were like that. And then as I felt more comfortable and had more time to grade rather than be developing the courses, then I moved to more open-ended where I can actually grade them.
Right. Yeah. And so, and what I was about to say too, and it kind of fits in with what Enrique says, would you be able to share strategies for responding to students who are lagging or having difficulty showing up? You're going to have some of that, folks, on this. What's first thing is that I've had to deal with it too. And I try to email my students on a regular basis and check in with them. And some are not connecting, and that's a very difficult thing. I want you to have, to what degree you can. Obviously, there are expectations for every course, but what I would advise, because just like you guys did not buy into this, your students did not either, and have empathy to the degree possible and flexibility to the degree possible. And what I mean by that, empathy-wise, is look at what are the knowledge and skills they definitely need to know and get out of things. And if there are some that are, and in my course, there are a lot of things that I want them to know, but it's not fundamental to them getting through it all. And when we move to the online format, I really try to hit the fundamental areas to make it as clean and clear and smooth as it possibly could for them, and not add a lot of stuff that's just going to add time to what it is. It would have been nice for them to have, but under the current circumstances, probably needed to be eliminated. So that's one of the areas there. And so think about the circumstances that they are in on as well. Think about the time they're going to have to spend to get things done, and certainly be, to whatever extent, have empathy for what's going on with them. But when it comes to that, is that if they're lagging, you've got to prod them. Ultimately, they're responsible for themselves. And so really and truly, but the key is to contact them through whatever means you can, technology-wise, whatever it is. Zoom seems to be working fairly well. And so you could free Zoom things where you make them show up and you have a face-to-face conversation occasionally would be something. But again, they've ultimately got to decide to be invested with what they're doing. And so, prod them through emails and things as much as you can, but they're responsible. So there's a question from Michelle, said, can you share some of the links for resources students can access? Maybe we can see if we can find and put together something there that we can send to Dr. Palma, or if we want to have a follow-up, have a couple of people that I think really are good at knowing what kind of free resources are out there for students and for teachers. And I think it might be a great follow-up lesson on that one. So we might want to hold off on that. I'm not the expert on that for sure, but I know there's a lot of things out there. Any other questions? Yeah, and so Enrique says, I find that acknowledging students for their efforts can also be a powerful motivator. Very good point, is that people tend to do what they're recognized for doing. And if we make sure that we recognize them, that's going to be really good. So building on that's going to be really important. With that being said, I appreciate everything that everybody's done. Again, touch base with Dr. Palma, and we want to follow up. And with that, if there's anything we can do, definitely let us know. I certainly appreciate your time, and we'll follow up with making sure that we post everything here and get in touch with you later. Dr. Oliveris, any final statements?
No, the ones that attended my session in the morning, they all got my email, so I told them that we'll be happy to answer any questions they might have after this session. So they're free, feel free to contact us.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, guys. Hope you guys have a great transition.